The reason is simple that it is still very difficult for Indian cinema to make a fully CGI based film despite having a minimum budget of 500 crores. This is exactly the biggest problem of Adipurush, that the entire film has been shot behind a green screen. Now, I will not compare this with the likes of Hollywood movies because they have much higher budgets. It is not about access to technology, it all comes down to how much money you want to spend. And the makers of Adipurush have reportedly spent a lot of money on retelling one of the most revered Indian mythological epics, which unquestionably holds a significant religious sentiment as well. I'm not going to talk about the problematic creative choices in terms of retelling the story of Ramayana, the lack of meaningful dialogues, continuity jumps in the narrative, and the dishonest adaptation process. All of this has already been discussed in detail by everyone who has watched the film. People are clearly disappointed. But along with doing a disservice to the sanctity of the subject matter, what I am also disappointed about is doing a disservice to the genre itself. But before I go ahead, I just want to say a big kudos to Ajay and Atul, who have done a brilliant job with the background score and music of this film. In fact, what they have achieved is the only redeeming quality of this film. Now, whenever I think of a film that belongs to the genre of epic action adventure, I always feel like traveling to a different world altogether that lies in the past, present, or future. I want to be swept away by the landscapes and the world building of such stories, which play a crucial role in establishing the emotional foundation of the narrative. With the announcement of Adipurush, I was very excited to see another great world building by Om Raut, who had already displayed his convincing creative potential with Tanaji, the Unsung Warrior. Ramayana is also a story that takes place across different landscapes and different time periods, which have a lot of more important stories attached to themselves. Now, I don't think it will be fair to blame Om Raut for being ambitious, because that should be the trait of every filmmaker. He or she should aspire to tell better stories using more larger than life canvases and within the genre of their liking. And Om Raut had previously expressed his intentions to tell the stories which are rooted in our culture and history. And Ramayana is a subject matter which is surely fitting to his creative alignment. But this is where he has failed. He has failed to realize and choose the most appropriate treatment for such a sacred and sensitive subject matter. You know, this film had the potential to actually become a golden segment in the illustrious career of Indian cinema, but unfortunately, the makers clearly could not come up with a representation that truly justifies the emotional and religious core of Ramayana. I'm sure the makers must have been as aware as the audience of the kind of world building this story requires. I'm sure they must have done a pre-visualization with storyboards and animatics, but unfortunately, they seem to have completely lost the plot, literally and metaphorically. And if a minimum budget of 500 crores was not enough to make an Adipurush, it would have never been enough to make a 2.0, Krish 3, Brahmastra, Ravan, Kochadya, Ponniyin Selvan, and many more.